Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Ooh, my camera's very overexposed today. Just give me a second to adjust my lighting. Welcome in, everybody. How's it going? Oh, that's a little bit better. There we go. Welcome in, everybody. Today we're going to be doing cross-hatching. Cross-hatching stream. So, you know, I thought I would welcome you with this beautiful spider face here. Welcome in. Thanks for waiting and for all your support. Welcome in, Amumu and Vin and our lovely mod, Joanne. Hello, Clover and Starverse. Nice to see you guys. Happy almost Halloween. If we haven't met before, my name is Faye and I will be teaching a cross-hatching lesson today. So let's look at the poll to see what the people have wanted, have voted for. So this is a really tough poll to do because I really wanted to draw some fancy cockroaches. Like, that's what I wanted to draw, but I had a feeling that Tim Burton would win. And it was a close race in the beginning, but a very obvious winner. So we will be doing some Tim Burton style studies today, along with cross-hatching techniques. So whatever you are drawing with, I will be using fine liner pen. You can use pencil, you can use, you know, just a ballpoint pen, like really whatever you have. If you're working digitally, that's fine too. But yeah, it's going to be a really fun stream today and I am looking forward to it. So if you didn't know, we are Wing Canvas and our mission at Wing Canvas is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So tune in live for free lessons every weekend, Saturday and Sunday at 3 p.m. So Iggy is going to be drawing a Halloween background tomorrow, so don't miss that. That'll be a lot of fun. And if you didn't know, our growing community is full of art nerds, and we art nerds have to stick together. So if you're an art nerd too, check out the links in our social media or in the description below. You can find us on most of the platforms at Wing Canvas. We are especially active on Discord though. I would say join us on Discord because lots of people share their work, help each other out, and it's a great community of art nerds just like you. And we're not just a YouTube channel, we are a school of illustration. And so I want to personally thank all of our incredible students, as well as our Patreon members, Patreon and YouTube members, for helping support the creation of free arts education. And our members get amazing perks like members only chats and critiques. So on our Discord, you can submit your artwork for feedback from all of our creators, and you get pretty cool behind the scenes stuff, like you can vote for video thumbnails and you get to see stuff before it's released, and you get a live class recording every month at a certain tier. And yeah, I know some of you guys are all really busy and, you know, you're trying to make time to do your artwork. And so we have live critique office hours from all of our creators. So I just had my critique yesterday, and it's on the Discord, but all of our instructors specialize in different things. So I would definitely invite you to check out our Discord and our memberships. All right, guys. So I don't know how many of you guys know about the challenge this month. It's Wingtober. Guys, we made our own version of Inktober, and it's been a lot of fun. Some of you guys have been submitting incredible artwork, and it was really hard to select just 3 today, but we will be revealing next week's themes on the Discord tomorrow. But today, if you are doing the Wingtober, the theme today is Sneaky Ruse. So what sneaky ruses do you have up your sleeve? Draw it and post it on our monthly challenge thread on the Discord. All right, so let's see what our lovely Discord members have submitted today or this week. Let's see. Oh, this is probably older than a week, but Vin, I think Vin, you're in the chat. I love this little piece. It's so much fun. Jump scare decor was the theme, was the prompt of the day, and I thought you did a really nice job. I would love to have this little pumpkin cat as decor, like on my doorstep, in my room, anywhere. It's so cute. I love how the expression really you know, accentuates the overall like illustration of the cat. You know, I can't see the cat's face, but I can feel the expression, and I can just, you know, feel the emotion of this cat pumpkin head. So love it. Nicely done. Okay, and our second one. So I tried to choose some artworks that are very different, but I just love this piece. So this is by that one possum who redrew American Gothic. So American Gothic is like a very famous painting of 2 farmers standing in front of their house with a pitchfork. And it's been, you know, made into so many parodies, but I just thought this was so cute. And who says you can't do Wingtober in pencil? Like, you can draw with whatever you want. And a lot of people will say, oh, Faye, you know, I don't have what you're using, or I don't have the materials, or, you know, I'm on the road, I can't draw. And I'm like, yes, you can. You can draw with anything. You can draw with a stick, draw with your finger, draw with whatever you have. Everything counts. And I just love okay, I added a vignette around this piece when I was adjusting it because it was a little dark, but I just love the fuzziness and like the texture of this piece, and has a lot of character. So great job, that one possum. You have made yourself into a historical painting. Okay, so this piece, Box Boy number 2, I have seen you posting a lot on the Discord. You've been doing a lot of the prompts. I don't know if you've been doing it every day, but I pinned a bunch of your artwork, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the same person. So I had to choose one. But I think this one's my favorite. The prompt was Eerie Eyes, and it's just, yeah, and people are saying it's so sick. Yeah, I love it. I just think it's such a cool style, you know. It's very original. It has sort of very graphic elements, but it also has this subtle glow. And I think you did a fantastic job. I can't really tell what the face is. It kind of looks like a dragon, but it doesn't matter. You know, it's got symbolism, it's got contrast, it's got this really graphic quality to it, which I adore. And it's got some hatching. So great job, Box Boy number 2. I love seeing your artwork. Keep it going. All right, so submit your artwork for the monthly challenge. Okay, and you can be featured on one of our live streams. Alrighty. So let's get to drawing. So I got a new camera, so it looks a little bit different. And I've been trying to adjust my lighting, but it's kind of a little bit cool today. Let me try one thing. Okay. Hopefully that works. But let me just show you some cross-hatching pieces that I've done before. I'll just show you 2. So this is Lady Arachnid. I did her for my drawing foundations class. Or might have been drawing mentorship, one of those. But we were working on cross-hatching, and cross-hatching is kind of one of those things that everybody struggles with. It's a great way to shade, whether you're shading with pen or whether you're shading with pencil. It's a great way to shade without smudging, and a great way to shade and reinforce the form. Okay, so Jessie did a stream last Saturday on hatching, where it's kind of this like manga style. So hatching is when you have lines going in one direction. So if you look at her hair and look at her fangs, right? This is hatching. So it's a sort of like one line or a series of lines going in one direction. Now cross hatching is when those lines intersect. So if you look at her hat, if you look at her fan, right, these elements are cross hatched. So cross hatching is a little bit trickier than hatching, but you can mix the techniques as well. So let me show you an example of cross hatching with pencil in a with like shading, in like a shaded style, right? So you may not see it right away, but if you look closely at the hands, you can see that the shading is made up of a series of lines. So the lines are going in different directions, but most of all, they are supposed to follow the form. Okay, so what that means is, here are my my Halloween themed hands, my pumpkin, sparkly pumpkin nails. But if I was drawing my hand here, right, if you take a look at skin cells, I don't know if you can see them, but like skin cells can be a good way to study cross-hatching, right? Because your skin cells actually have little little lines that kind of go across. So, right, they kind of do this, and then the opposite way. So there's different ways to hatch. Like you could hatch completely sort of up and down like this, but this ends up looking a little bit flat, right? Personally, I like the hatched look where it's a little bit offset. So instead of it being completely square, like these are perfect squares, right? I like mine to be a little bit more of a diamond shape. So kind of like a parallelogram. So I like to not hatch at a 90-degree angle, but slightly elongated. And what this what this does is it actually makes the it actually complements the form a little bit better. So let me explain that in more detail here. Thanks, Joe. I love the sparkly nails too. Ever since I started streaming, I'm like, I have a good excuse to go get my nails done. All right. So let me show you what I'm going to be drawing with today. So I got these Prismacolors. Where's my box for the Prismacolors here? So I got this set of fine line markers, but you can really cross hatch with anything, anything really. Like I said, pencil, fine liner, pen, even ballpoint pen works as well. So these pens usually have different thicknesses. So they go from like 1 millimeter to 0.05, which is like the smallest. So this one here, 0.1. This one is pretty thin. Okay. This is 0.05. I think this is millimeters or centimeters. Okay, so this is 0.05. I think it's millimeters. Let's see. This one is, this one is 0.3. So they get slightly darker and slightly thicker. Just testing out my tools. This one is 0.5. Oh yeah, that one's much thicker. And this is a 0.8. So 0.8 is sort of the thickest. Okay. So you can see they get progressively thinner, which is really nice because you have like a natural kind of built-in value scale. So when I drew these lines, they're like the same distance apart. I did them in the exact same way, but you can already see like a natural grayscale start to happen here. And you know, you can try it out with pencil as well. So cross-hatching is really good for mechanical pencils. So here's my mechanical pencil. My mechanical pencil is, I think this is 0.7. 0.7 millimeters. And then there's 0.5 and 0.3 is a little bit more rare, but this is pencil. And I also really like using ballpoint pen. This pen, I bought a box of these pens. So this one is 0.3 millimeters, so it's similar to this. These are too old. These are like 20 years old. Yeah, so these pens are not, they're water soluble. So the difference between these ones and the permanent ones are that if I did watercolor on top of this pen and ink, it would actually bleed, right? And sometimes it's not a bad thing. Like bleeding lines, like you can use that to your advantage whenever you want. But this, you know, this tool, the 0.3 on the Prismacolor, this is permanent, right? So it will not bleed. So if you did a line drawing and then you wanted to put watercolor on top, I would get the permanent. If you wanted that kind of smudgy look, then you can use just like a regular pen, but test it out with water just to see how it reacts with things. Okay, The last tool I wanted to test is my good old Bic pen. These are like 12 pens for like $2 or something. They're extremely cheap ballpoint pens, right? So if I had to guess, I would say the ballpoint pen is at a 0.5, maybe 0.8, but it looks like a 0.5. So this is ballpoint. These are all permanent Prismacolor. I don't know why I chose to draw it on a tilt like this. I think it's because this is how I naturally draw, so it just ended up going this way. But that was not intentional. And it's going to be a little bit challenging for me because when you hatch, you kind of have to turn the paper. So I might end up turning the paper today. So I definitely encourage you guys to do that. It's just a little hard to see when it's a demo. Okay, so the 0.3 is water soluble, water-based. Okay, this is mechanical pencil. So let me know what you're drawing with today. Any of these tools will work, and digital works as well. Okay, so let's do just some random doodles just to warm up with cross-hatching. So I'm going to talk about cross-hatching first, and then we'll go into Tim Burton, and we'll talk about him. I gotta like sort these out so I'm not constantly looking for the right size. So 0.1, 0.3, 0.5. Okay. Okay, so let's draw a sphere. That's like one of the easiest things to start with when it comes to shading, right? We're gonna draw our ball and we're gonna try to cross hatch that ball. Okay, we'll do that together. So let's start by drawing a circle. Okay, and I'm just gonna draw 2 circles down here to demonstrate some other points. So you guys have all seen like the diagram of a globe, or like even the emoji of a globe. It kind of does this, right? Globe, pumpkin, kind of these lines will wrap around the ball, right? So this makes the circle look 3D, and it's just because the lines are curved, right? So if you used flat lines like this, you are shading something that is, you're shading a circle, not a sphere. Okay, so the way your lines curve will describe whether or not something is 3D versus 2D. Okay, so this is just hatching. Now cross hatching needs to go the other way. Okay, so a very sort of unified way to shade a sphere is kind of like this globe, right, where the lines are all curved like that. And then here I'm shading a pancake or a hole or a grate. Okay, so the way your lines curve will determine the form. So curved versus flat. Both are correct. It just depends on what it is you're shading, right? So another way to shade, so you can see like these lines go up and down and they connect the entire way, right? But if we actually want the ball to you know, like let's say you're shading a really big ball and it's impossible to do a line that's like really, really long. What you can do is you can overlap your lines so that they start changing direction. So it's kind of like this. So they overlap a little bit. And then they start to make the illusion of something that's curved. So it's kind of like this. Right? So you can make a curved effect with straight lines as well. They don't all have to be curved. So I'll show you how to do that on a sphere. Let's choose something a little less thick. Okay. So let's say the light source is coming from this direction. Then what you can start to do is start to, you know, shade in this ball. And I'm putting a slight curve on these lines, just a slight one. And then just start to overlap it a little bit. Now there will be some overlap. And if you don't like the look of that, then you can kind of go over it and hide it with lines going the opposite way. But I'm going to shade a little bit of the top as well. You might notice that money is cross-hatched. If you look at the illustrations or the portraits on money and look closely, you'll notice that they are cross-hatched. And it's just like a way of printing, values and tone. Okay, so you basically will start to combine these lines and go in different directions. Right, and then you can take a darker, thicker line and start to put in the darks. So here I'm putting in my core shadow. So let me know in the chat what you are unsure of or what you struggle with when it comes to hatching, and I'll do my best to answer questions or show you a specific technique. Okay, and then the best way to hatch is to just be aware of the forms and how they're turning and squint once in a while, right? Just squint so that you don't forget to look at the big picture. So you can see this one is quite messy, but personally, I like that messy look. It makes it look a little bit more human. And I think that it's just more, I don't know, more messy. I kind of like the imperfection, right, of pen and ink. Versus like digital, you can clean things up, right? But with pen and ink, there's like blotches, and you'll see that in Tim Burton's style when we go into it a little bit later. You'll start to see what I mean by the imperfections. Those are things that you could really embrace with this style. Okay, so we did a sphere. Now let's do a cylinder, because if you can hatch a cylinder, you can draw fingers. You can draw hands. You could pretty much draw anything, right? So let's do a cylinder. And that's the other thing about hatching is like it's very awkward for me. Like it's very easy for me to draw straight lines this way, but it's very awkward for me to go in opposite directions. So I may need to turn the canvas, okay, or turn my paper. So if you want to practice getting better at hatching, you can practice various lengths of line. So when you hold your pencil, don't hold it too close, or when you hold your pen or stylus, right? Don't hold it too close. Hold it like a little bit farther away. So kind of like in the middle. Some people hold it even further away. And so you'll notice that like my wrist is not moving, like it's not doing this, right? Sometimes if you're doing small lines, you're moving your wrist, but if you're doing longer lines, you're moving your arm. And that distinction is really important, right? So if I'm trying to draw a straight line with just my wrist, right? It gets a little bit wobbly, but if I try to draw straight lines, right? Try to draw a bunch of straight lines that are as parallel as you can make them. And as long as you can make them. It's a good warm up. Okay, now go the other way. Go up and down. This is a lot tougher for me, so I'm going to go down, up. It's easier for me to go from down to up than it is for me to go from up to down. So once you find your sweet spot, right, then you kind of know, okay, it's easier for me to go from left to right than it is right to left, and it's easier for me to go up and down. Okay, so for me, it's going this way and going this way. If I was doing this, it's a lot harder, and going down is a lot harder. So figure out what your sweet spots, figure that out, and that'll make your life a lot easier. Another tip is if you're using pencil to hatch, put a sheet of paper down so that you're not smudging your work when you're going back and forth. Quinn says Canadian money or American money as well. I think American money as well. I think all money has cross-hatching. But I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Cubehead says, hey, I'm an artist, but I've recently started with digital art. My main problem is that my pen slips on my tablet a lot and makes my lines wiggly and off. Okay, so if your pen is slipping, I'm not really sure what you can do, but I know you can add, you can put like a correction on if you're doing it digitally. And if you use the correction tool, it'll make your art or your line art a little bit more stable. So sometimes it's called stabilization. I don't personally use it because it kind of delays my speed of the lines. And sometimes you can also get like a non-slip sort of screen protector on your tablet as well. So yeah, or changing the nib. That's good. That's good advice. All right, so let's draw this cylinder. Okay, so I love shading cylinders with cross-hatching because it really illustrates like the direction of the curve, right? So if you're cross-hatching something like skin, then I would use hatching. So sorry, if you're hatching something like metal, or shading using lines, right, is what hatching is. But let's say you're hatching metal, I would just go in one direction. So if it's metal, I would go, I would kind of shade in one direction. I'm going to use a slightly thinner. So I'm trying to create the illusion of something shiny. So with metal, usually there's like a darker part in the middle. Not in the middle, but like in the middle of one of the form shadows, which is the core shadow. And then if you're hatching the top, I usually like to go from dark to light. Right? So here it's darker against light, and here it's darker against light. So it gives you the most amount of contrast. Then I think about my ambient occlusion or my my cast shadow here, right? And so if you're shading shadows, you want to determine, okay, is the shadow going to be flat or is it going to be round, right? Is your cylinder on a flat surface? Is it on a round surface? Hatching is also really good for hair. And as cast shadows get a little farther away from you, they get a bit more, like a lot lighter, right? And they might disappear. Hey, Colfer, welcome in. Okay, so this is hatching. So hatching would be for things like metal. Personally, I wouldn't cross hatch metal because cross hatching creates a bit more of a texture, right? I don't know why I drew this cylinder so big. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have to hatch the whole thing. But if I was cross hatching, I would cross hatch things that have a bit more texture or things that I want to be a little bit darker. So for something like skin, right? So pretend this is an arm or just like a section of an arm. Then, you know, I would kind of go up and down first. So for an arm, you know, if I want to show more form, right? There's a bit of a bend here. You just kind of have to be patient and just practice. But it's a good way to really stabilize and gain control of your drawing tool. And I was terrible at cross-hatching, like so bad at it. I thought that shading meant smudging. I loved my my smudge tools. And then I had one teacher tell me, no smudging. I was like, what? So then how do you shade? And that's when I learned about cross-hatching. And in the beginning, it was really, really tough. But then I learned, oh, I can just kind of, you know, practice. And then I got a lot better at it because I just did it a lot. It allows you to practice your consistency in your line art. Okay, so you can see the texture difference between hatching and cross hatching. And, you know, if I wanted to keep going, I could bring this over, make it a little bit more subtle. Right, so this part of the arm is in more light. Can you guys hear my pen? Just curious if you can. Joanne is asking, Faye, do you have a cross-hatching exercise for people that are new to it? Yes, this. Find your sweet spot first, because like I said, it's hard to shade in some directions, but it's easier in other directions. So find which direction gives you the most confident lines. So for example, this is very easy for me, right? This is hard for me. Look at my wrist. I'm going this way, right? Whereas when I go this way, it's a lot more effortless, right? So find your sweet spot. My sweet spot is this range here. From going this way to this way. This is kind of like my radius. That's my sweet spot, right? If I go past this, it starts to get awkward. And if I start to shade this way, like I could probably do it. Yeah, like I could manage it, but it's not as comfortable and my lines get a little bit curvy. So you want to figure out where your sweet spot is first, and then try hatching things like a cylinder and a ball, right? These will help you get really good at your lines. Crosshatching on metal is appropriate in a comic art style. Yeah, it's totally up to you, right? This is just what I like to do. But yeah, let's now look at some Tim Burton stuff, Tim Burton references. Now, I'm sure everybody here knows about I almost said Tim Hortons. Oh my gosh, I must be hungry. Tim Burton. Everybody knows about Tim Burton. Yes? Is there anybody in the chat who does not know who Tim Burton is? Let me know. It's okay. I would love to I would love to give you his story. But let me just go to my my screen here so I can show you his film project. So I'm on his website right now. And let's see, his first film was Pee-wee's Big Adventure, 1985. I've never watched this. I did hear a lot about Pee Wee Herman, but I never really got into it. And then it was Beetlejuice, and I think Beetlejuice was what took off. It's kind of what made him famous. And then he did Batman. He did Batman like 1989. I think it was Batman Returns, which if you haven't seen is so good. It's with Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito. Like, it's probably like the darkest kind of grittiest Batman that was out there. And then Edward Scissorhands. Who here has seen Edward Scissorhands? It's like a fantasy, a very dark, romantic, I would say it's kind of like a comedy. It's a romance. It's about this man who's kind of like, he kind of redid the Frankenstein story, but in his own way. And I think he was a very lonely kind of misfit, right, growing up. And so Edward Scissorhands was his way of telling his own personal story about a man who was kind of engineered, half done, and he had scissors for hands, and then he ends up falling in love with this young girl in the suburbs who's played by Winona Ryder. And ever since Johnny Depp worked with Tim Burton, he has, I think, just fallen in love with his style and has worked with him ever since on so many feature films. Yeah, Quinn, maybe it maybe it was before you were born, or before some of you guys were born, but I remember watching Edward Scissorhands as a child and I was horrified. It was very scary for me. Okay, so my bad. Batman Returns is actually 1992. This is the original 1989 version. So the one with Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, Michael Keaton was done 4 years later. So we Tim Burton fans probably all have a favorite Tim Burton movie, and mine is definitely The Nightmare Before Christmas. It is like, so it's like a stop motion film with amazing characters. They all have just such great shape language and such a unique look. Beautiful story. Everything is just so well done. I was a big fan of that movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it, especially because it's Halloween. It's perfect movie for the season. So these are some of his other movies he did: Planet of the Apes, Big Fish, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride. So Tim Burton had a lot of childhood heroes that I actually really adored as well, and one of them is Roald Dahl. He's a children's book author, and he wrote like James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda. I'm sure you've heard of him as well. But yeah, so Tim Burton isn't just a filmmaker, he's also an amazing artist, and now he's doing installations. So he's doing like these immersive, this one's not as immersive, but he's doing like VR, and has all kinds of like really cool exhibitions around the world. So this one's like a monster exhibition. It's traveling around the world, and it's using, VR. And I didn't know this, but he's an incredible installation artist. So multimedia artist. And so, if you are just drawing at this point, like I would say dream big. If you can draw, then you are able to art direct, and you are able to create anything, right? Especially with the tools that we have today. Okay, so now let's look at some Tim Burton examples. I don't know if you guys have seen his style in his drawings. Like, these are his doodles, and this is Batman and Robin. Definitely didn't turn out this way in his feature film, but I just thought it was so funny the way he exaggerates characters. So if we study his style, I'm going to make some notes as I study him, or as we look at his pieces together. I'm going to make some notes. So Tim Burton, here, let's use a new page here. So style notes. Asymmetry. Asymmetry. Did I spell that right? I think so. Okay. So asymmetry is one of Tim Burton's strengths. Like, if you notice the characters here, right? Like, Batman is not a perfect circle. He's got kind of like this belly that sticks out, and he uses like his cape is not exactly symmetrical. So asymmetry he uses a lot. He also uses a lot of like pointy edges, just like pointy characters, right? Really thin arms and legs. Very thin arms and legs, and lots of contrast. Lots of contrast. If you're making notes, let me know if I've missed anything. And humor. This is a big one. He's really funny. And dark. And gritty. These are all words that I would use to describe his style and his movies as well. So dark, gritty, humor. Just the way I like it. A lot of my artwork in school was also kind of dark, gritty. I didn't usually do the thin arms and legs, but I was definitely took inspiration from Tim Burton. Another thing that I see him do is like large eyes. Large eyes and tiny pupils. Large eyes and tiny pupils is one of his sort of signature styles. His characters all also tend to be kind of pale. They're all kind of pale and kind of unhealthy looking. But let's keep going. So I really like this sort of pen and ink style with colored pencil. That's nice. He does colored pencil as well as watercolor. So this is the real Edward Scissorhands. Like this is the Johnny Depp version. But let me show you his sketch for him. Oh, messy hair is another one. Messy hair. So this is his original sketch for Edward Scissorhands, and you can see like it's pretty close to the real life version. Usually he draws his characters with like really tiny hands and tiny feet, but in this character sketch, like his hands are really large because they're scissors, and he kind of balanced out the large hands with the large feet, because I think even though some of his characters are not very balanced, because they're caricatures, right? But I think in this case, it just looked better. And so, you know, you can always, like, your style can change depending on what it is you're drawing. Okay, so this trio is from The Nightmare Before Christmas. And I think they are called Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Really, really funny characters. And, you know, you can see that my favorite thing about these characters are they're trick-or-treaters, right? So they're wearing masks that fit their face shape. So one of the faces is a shield. The other is just sort of this like long coffin shape. And then the other one is a perfect circle. Okay, so the perfect circle character, I can't remember which one he is. I think he might be Barrel. I'm just guessing because barrels are round. But okay, so if you look at his mask and his face, it's the same face. Like the teeth are slightly different and the nose is slightly different, but I think that's what adds to the comedy of it all. You know, it's like, when you take off the mask, your face is exactly the same. I thought that was really funny. So totally my kind of humor. So Tim Burton did do Corpse Bride as well, and I think he based the character, like the main male character, off of himself. And again, like you can see like dark circles under their eyes. Something I'm gonna put in here, dark under eye circles. So whenever I'm doing a style study, and you can do this yourself, if you are studying a artist or a style, just make a list of things that you notice about it, right? And this helps you draw it in your own style using the traits that you like. And you don't have to use all of these, right? Like maybe you don't want to do pointy edges, or maybe you don't want to, you know, make all your characters pale. But, you know, writing down what you observe is a really good way to not look at the drawing, but understand what it is you like about it. Okay, so here's the cast of the characters of The Nightmare Before Christmas. And I thought it would be really fun for us to just draw these as silhouettes. So we're going to start off with silhouettes, because that's one thing that Tim Burton did really, really well, was these very exaggerated silhouettes. I think my subconscious is telling me that I want a coffee. But anyway. Okay, so let's have a look at some of his characters. And you can draw along with me. All I'm doing right now is I'm just going to study the silhouettes. Okay. So take your thickest pen or pencil, and we're just going to draw in some small silhouettes. So I'm going to start off with Barrel. So Barrel is a circle, and then he's got kind of like a small body that's like a diamond shape. No neck. Tiny little hands. And sort of big feet. So he's like a classic kind of child shape, right? So when you're drawing children, their heads are really big, their bodies are very small. There's a character called Bat Kid. And Bat Kid is, again, has like this round head and like a tiny, tiny body. And then these huge bat wings that make a really cool kind of silhouette shape. Now, silhouettes are really fun to study because it allows you to think and really study shape design, right? I'm going to draw some of the more common characters. There's a clown in The Nightmare Before Christmas called the Clown with a Tearaway Face. So he would like take off his face and it would be really scary looking. So he was shaped like an egg, like this. And he had these kind of like worm-like arms and tiny little hands and like a pear-shaped head. And he had one of these like helicopter things, which also kind of made it look like a pear. And then he had this like belt around him. And he had polka dots, I think, or some kind of pattern with big baggy pants. And he rode a unicycle. So he was kind of on this like little wheel contraption thing. So I'm not going to shade him in because I kind of like the detail on here. But these are shape design studies. So if you're just joining us, that's kind of what we're doing. Okay, Creature Under the Stairs. Creature Under the Stairs, he's shaped like a croissant. Like he's got this kind of coffin shape and like a head. So Tim Burton would always either make his characters have like really long necks or no necks at all. And I think that's kind of what made his exaggerated characters so appealing. So those of you who are character designers in the chat or have OCs or you're, really interested in character art, this exercise is great, right? Like if there's a movie that you absolutely love and you love the character designs, like just study their silhouettes. It makes you a much better artist because it makes you more aware of what it is that you like, what tickles you, what makes you like your personal taste. So, okay, so I'm not going to do all of these. There is a Cyclops character that I do like. And he's kind of got these like little skinny arms and like a pear-shaped body. He does use pear shapes a lot in his artwork, and you won't really notice it until you kind of study it, right? Like two little ears, really skinny arms and big hands. So, okay, so I'm learning that his characters either have tiny hands and tiny feet or huge hands and huge feet and skinny arms. Okay. So I drew Barrel. I'm gonna draw Locke now. So Locke has a face that looks like a shield. So he's kind of got this like this shape. Shield, if you are Shield is happens to be one of our mods, but if he's watching this would be a good character. Good shape for one of your OCs. All right, so this kind of, and I like how his character names also echo the shapes. So like a shield and Locke kind of go together, which I think is kind of fun. And then the mayor is such a good character. He's literally like a triangle shape. So he's like a spinny top shape. Right now it looks like I'm drawing a sailboat, but it's gonna be a character, I promise. He's got these tiny little feet. He's got this like big kind of mayor badge. This is his head. He's gonna be in silhouette, so. And then this really, really long, ridiculous top hat. And that's the mayor, right? So I think doing these studies, it can be a lot of fun, and it can really also help you realize what you like so much about certain characters. And for Tim Burton, it's definitely his shape language and his very original style. What I also like about The Nightmare Before Christmas is it shows you, with Jack Skellington, it shows you like how he's able to portray emotion with a skull. Like skulls don't even have eyes, right? Skulls don't have eyes and eyebrows, and that's where you show all the emotion. So how do you even do that? That's like such a challenge. And he was really able to do things that seem impossible to, you know, the average artist. Okay, so I just remember Jack Skellington has really long legs, like super long. I don't really remember what his feet look like, but I'm just gonna make it up. Okay, so he could have drawn Jack Skellington to look like a classic skeleton, but he really exaggerated everything about him, including his, you know, his shoulder, like little shoulder tassels that really make him have a unique silhouette. So silhouette is so important. It's kind of like almost like everything when it comes to creating a good character. Okay, so the boogeyman, or Oogie Boogie is his name. He's just like a bag full of insects. So scary. He's kind of got a witch's hat type of head shape. And like, he's got stitches. Oh, just thinking about a bag of insects makes my skin kind of crawl. Yeah, I know. I drew Kevin. Here he is. I drew our shield, our mod. Okay, so I think I should draw Sally. Sally is the female character in Nightmare Before Christmas, and she's a little bit more of your average kind of character. She's got tiny feet and this kind of raggedy dress shape, and she's always falling apart, so she's stitching herself back together. She's got long flowy hair and like the big eyes, so she's not as original looking, but next to everybody else she is fairly original. So one of my favorite characters is Santa, who is actually called Sandy Claus because Jack Skellington I think doesn't know how to pronounce Santa Claus, so he calls him Sandy Claus. And he's just this like big cup shape. So it's kind of like that shape, right? Almost like the mayor, but the mayor has more edges, whereas Sandy Claus is just like big and round. So the Oogie Boogie song, yeah, that's an amazing song. I know. Okay, so a couple more and then we'll move on. So I want to draw Shock. So Shock is a witch, so she's kind of got, you know, this type of shape. Going back to the silhouettes. She's got this long face. So her face looks like a chili pepper, right? This looks like a chili pepper. And then she's got some like scraggly hair like that. And then her body is very small, just like a triangle shape because she's a child. There we go. So easy, right? Once you break these characters down into shapes, I think everything else is pretty easy. There's some other memorable characters like Mummy Boy and Dr. Finkelstein. Dr. Finkelstein is the character in the wheelchair. More complicated silhouette, but still a great character. And then I'm going to draw Zero. So Zero is Jack Skellington's dog. And it's like this dog ghost character with a beautiful silhouette, beautiful gestures. So basically like a sheet. Ooh. So not cross-hatching yet, just kind of studying style and shape language. There we go. So if you're ever bored and you want to get better at character design, do something like this, right? Just like pull up your favorite characters and do a simple shape study exercise. And first of all, it's really fun. And then second of all, you'll learn a lot by doing this exercise. Okay, so out of all of these, I think I want to adopt definitely humor. I already start that. I like the dark and I like the gritty. I like the messy hair and the large eyes and tiny pupils and the thin arms and legs. So these are the things that I want to adopt for a character that I want to draw. So I want to draw a companion piece to Lady Arachnid today. I'm hoping that I'll be able to finish it. But I'm going to draw Sir Cockroach in Tim Burton style. So let me pull up my references here. Where did I save my bug character? Okay, so I'm not going to load the reference because it's a cockroach, and I don't think you guys want to look at a cockroach's face the entire time, so I'm going to spare you, but I have it up. Okay. So, similar to Lady Arachnid, who I'll show you again. So I kind of drew her in an oval, and I wanted to draw a series of fancy insects because I love the juxtaposition of fancy, and cockroaches are like the least fancy of them all, right? So I thought, oh my gosh, that'd be really funny to do a portrait. So I'm gonna start off, and this may not be the final piece. This might just be a sketch for today because we may not have time, but I'm gonna just show you my process. So I want to draw a cockroach wearing a top hat and a bow tie. And I want it to be dark, gritty, and funny. And I want it to have like big eyes, right? Like the Tim Burton style eyes. Does that mean we're getting a part 2? We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So, I'll start off with my shape language. So cockroaches have kind of a shield-like shell, right? They kind of look like this from the back. Sorry, shield. And because I want it to be a male character, I'm gonna give it a more sort of chiseled look, right? More wide chiseled look. And they have a head that is kind of within this shield like this. And so I kind of want my character, and it has this other shape that's kind of like on top of its head to protect itself, and its eyes are like on the top with the antenna going this way and then the legs going this way, right? So I'm gonna see about exaggerating my shapes, channeling what I like about Tim Burton's work. I do want him to be I want him to be kind of funny and a little bit less scary. So I know, Shield, you are you're being mentioned like nonstop today because you've got a good shape, you know? Tim Burton really liked your shapes. Okay. So what kind of hairdo should I give Sir Cockroach? Here's his top hat. Maybe I'll give him like a fancy mustache. Very gentleman-like mustache. And I want him to have very empathetic eyes. Because cockroaches are so misunderstood. They, you know, are not the most appealing characters. They are hated. People really dislike them. So to me, I think it's a good opportunity to make him kind of misunderstood, you know? But he's actually a nice guy. all cockroaches are dynamic. No. Some of them are good. Okay, so maybe he has like slick hair. It's kind of slicked back this way. Right now I'm just kind of figuring out what I want his character to look like. I'm going to give him a bit of a more of a human-like nose. And like a gentle smile. I'm going to give him a chiseled chin. And he's got these teeth coming out this way. Okay. And I really want him to be like holding a cup of tea, right? Because that's what gentlemen do. Nichelle says, how do you draw blades of grass? You just draw the shape of them. So I'm going to be drawing like bug legs with spikes on them. Not spikes. Oh my gosh, like little hairs. So it's very similar to blades of grass. Hopefully I can show you. Okay, so I'm not very good at drawing insect anatomy. I'm just kind of guessing right now, but let's give him a cup of tea. And then he's got to be holding the saucer with this arm. And it would be foreshortened. Oh, going this way. Okay. The mustache and head are reminding you of the king of all cosmos. I've never seen that. I'll have to look it up later. Okay. But character design was actually one of my favorite things about art school. I had so much fun designing characters. As you can see, I'm having a blast. Okay. Time is it? 4:20. Woo! Okay. Let's go. So hatching takes a long time, or cross hatching takes a very long time. And you know, if I had more time, I would create different variations on this character. I think I just don't really have enough time today. But it's okay. Like, I think it's kind of cute. And so I'm just gonna start cross-hatching his face and start with his face. And one of the things that I wanted to adopt is asymmetry. So right now his antennae are pretty symmetrical, so I think I'm going to make this one a little bit less symmetrical. Give him a bit of a goatee. Yeah, he is a goofy character. I think all of Tim Burton's characters are kind of goofy as well, right? So that's what I really like about it. So I'm going to start by hatching his eyes. Giving him some dark circles around his eyes. Like he hasn't been sleeping for a while. So maybe he's drinking espresso instead of coffee. And so the mustache and the fangs are kind of echoing each other. I'm not sure if I like it, but I kind of committed to it already. And mustaches are really fun to draw and to crosshatch, right? Because it's technically hair. So let's focus on that first. Big bushy mustache. So when I'm shading something black, right, I'm going to start off with mostly my darks, like completely dark, and then start to get a little bit lighter in the middle. Right, so I had to turn my paper because, again, when it's against your sweet spot, you end up with very horrible lines. Or at least I do. So we were doing expressions in my drawing foundations class on Thursday, and I got to draw this character. It was really this character in despair, like he was crying and like literally stuff coming out of his nose. Oh my gosh, I think I should show you. I have it. It was so much fun. Hold on, let me see. This guy. I don't know what it was about him. I thought it was so fun. But anyway, yeah, we in our classes we do similar projects. They're usually pretty open. You can work in whatever medium you want, and we have a lot of fun together. And our teachers will give you feedback, and it's tailored to you, you know? So whatever it is that you are personally struggling with, we're here to help. But our goal is for you guys to have fun. And really find the joy in creating. So you can see with his antenna, I'm choosing to hatch it instead of crosshatch it, because I'm looking at a reference of like a real cockroach, and they do have this type of texture, like this type of ring. And so I just want to make sure like that these two antennae are the same length, roughly the same length, even though they're doing different things. And funny enough, the antennae of cockroaches are below their eyes, unlike most insects. That was really hard. I had to like be silent and focus on drawing that perfect line. Because this is pen and ink, so there's like no going back for me, really. The antennae are the worst part. Yeah. I'm definitely scared of cockroaches. Like, I might be like, oh, you know, they're misunderstood. But if I saw one on the street, I would be taking off my shoe and taking care of business. You know what I mean? I'm not the type to be like, oh, it's so cute. I'm gonna set it free. But I think it would be very Tim Burton like to create a, you know, like a Tim Burton style Bug's Life where he turns cockroaches into like lovable characters. I think that would be really funny. I do like spiders too, Vin. I've done some self-portraits with spiders. I think I posted it in the members chat. And really revealed my weird side. Okay, so I'm gonna finish shading his hair. You can see I've been hatching so far. Haven't really cross-hatched much, but I will start to do that soon with like the hat. But for now, I just want to make sure that I get his hair. So I haven't figured out my Halloween costume yet, guys. Do you guys know what you're gonna be for Halloween? I always try to think of ideas and then I can never decide on a costume and then I end up doing something very last minute. I'm trying to think about how to create messy hair, but also make it look more gentlemanly, you know? It's hard. The huge roaches. You know that there are some roaches that can fly? That's like my worst nightmare. That's why I would never go to Taiwan. Because there's flying cockroaches there. I don't think I could. I just. No. No, thank you. This guy can't fly, though. This guy is a land critter. And if you're watching me draw him in the audience, I need help naming him. I need to give him a name. He's gonna be like Sir something. Okay, so I'm gonna start to cross-hatch this hat. The reason I want to cross-hatch the hat is because, you know, if I want some of the textures to be different. Sir Roach. Yeah, that's a good one. I want to find something like a little bit fancier. Like, what is the you know, like the Latin word for cockroach? That'd be fancy. Like arachnid is fancy, right? Like she's not Lady Spider. Um, Rochester. So good. I like that. I like that, Sir Rochester. Nice one, Quinn. I like how it's like also subtly very New Yorker of you. Amazing. So good. Okay, so I want to give him. Oh, I forgot to hatch his. So I've been looking at this close up of this cockroach reference, this cockroach head, like a real cockroach, and I've looked at it so long that I'm like no longer terrified of it. But it has this like texture on it. I'm gonna spare you guys again, but it has like this kind of roughness. It's like shiny, but it's like skin texture. And I'm going to add a little bit of it onto my character. See, Quinn, I told you I would try to try my best to do more than one of the poll options. So I'm kind of giving him this texture on his face, which I'm actually really liking. So Sir Rochester and Lady Arachnid are going to meet at a ball, right? And he's going to court her. So weird. Okay, so this is where I'm going to draw in some cross-hatching, because this is a semi-transparent exoskeleton that's on the back of most cockroach bodies. So it kind of looks like a collar, which I like. But because it's flat, I'm going to shade it with more of a flat hatch, right? Kind of like the pancake that I demonstrated earlier in the beginning of the stream. And so you can see the combination of cross-hatching and hatching makes it kind of nice. It gives it a good variety. Let's give him a feather. Oh, my stomach is rumbling. I kind of just had to load a bunch of snacks today, aside from breakfast, so I am really hungry. Can you hear my stomach? It's very loud. Okay, so the other thing you could do for cross-hatching is you can emphasize areas of contrast, right? So if I want this sort of collar to be behind his face, then I would go in and hatch, go a little bit darker. Are Lady Arachnid and Sir Rochester bug size or human size? I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I would think somewhere in between. Okay, so his legs are gonna be fun. This is not really gonna be anatomically correct, peoples. My lovely peoples. I'm sorry, but it's a fantasy character, so I'm gonna just like try my best to make it sort of make sense and write the rest off to fantasy. These spikes are so fun to draw, though. Holy moly. So fun. Okay. So I want him to be holding the saucer, but I think I'm going to change this because right now he's kind of holding the saucer like a bowl. And I think you would need to hold it kind of like a plate, right? So, and maybe it's a little bit closer. Maybe it's over here. So this arm's going to be foreshortened. I think if they were a little guy, they would be really cute, right? Whereas if they're huge, it would just be kind of scary. So again, it's very different if you're shading a inanimate object versus an object that's, you know, moving and real. I'm realizing I only have like 20 minutes left on the stream, so I'm trying my best to be speedy here. Okay. So I kind of wish I drew the spikes a little bit more symmetrical, but that's what happens when, you know, you follow a reference and follow the reference too closely instead of kind of moving away from the reference. The references are really good. They're really, really helpful, especially when you're stuck. But it can prevent you from drawing it your way and just being a little bit more creative. I always found that I struggled with that personally. Like, I was really good at realism, or I wanted to be really good at realism. And it was really when I got really good at realism that I could tuck it away and rely on my own visual library, right? To then, you know, come up with interesting characters and just have fun drawing out of my head. Do I draw comics? Hey, Solo Leveling. No, I actually don't draw comics. Wing Canvas has a group of artists, and if you want to learn about comics, Jessie is the person you probably wanna follow. So she does comics. Like I'll teach comics if I have to like sub a class or something. I don't mind teaching it, but I'm not a specialist at it. I've studied comics, and I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, we're a school of visual storytelling. So I'm an illustrator by trade. I went to school for illustration, actually Art Center in California. But now I'm based in like the Toronto area in Canada, and it's kind of where I grew up. And I don't think I could, like I could probably draw comic strips, but my commitment to like actually crafting a comic and sticking with it is just not there. Like I get bored easily. So like sometimes I will, you know, start a series and chip away at it throughout the years. Like I've drawn, for example, a lot of insects, and I might not draw insects for a long time. Like I might abandon it for a few years and then I'll come back to it, like today, right? I probably started my first insect illustration when I was in university. I did a series about fears and obsessions, thanks to my awesome illustration instructor, Alex Gross. You should Google him. His work is pretty epic. He's like a surrealist painter. And I had so much fun in his class. I think I really learned how to find my own style, and I learned what I loved, what I didn't like. And so he gave us really cool themes, and one of them was fear and obsession. And so my fear at the time, probably not anymore, but my fear at the time was insects. And I'll tell you two stories. Okay, so one was when I was living in California. There was a spider on my ceiling that laid eggs. It wasn't like a poisonous spider or anything, just like a house spider. But one morning I woke up because I felt a tickle on my face. And I look up at the ceiling, and all I see are these like tiny, tiny strands of like teeny tiny little bugs. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? And then I look up, and in my room, from the ceiling hanging down, were like 1,000 little tiny baby spiders. And I freaked out. I was like running out of my room, you know, in my PJs, screaming. And I had to vacuum my ceiling. And I was vacuuming my ceiling and kind of feeling bad for like killing these newborn spiders. So I was very conflicted. Part of me was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? This is a nightmare. And the other half of me was like, you know, they just wanted a chance at life. So yeah, I was very conflicted, but that was like one of the memories, one of my core memories that I can't get rid of, and that's kind of why I decided to choose insects, because I was like half scared and half obsessed with that incident. And then the other time there was a June bug. I don't know if you guys know what June bugs look like, but they kind of look like cockroaches, but they're less flat. They're kind of more round. And a June bug flew into my ear. And my ear, it was a small one. And I might have been like riding my bike or something. And the sound was deafening. Like, it was like an engine in my ear. The roar of it, I still remember. And so, yeah, I haven't had great experiences with bugs, and so, I haven't really had any bad experiences before with cockroaches. Luckily for me, I've never had cockroaches in my house. Even when I had roommates, I was lucky. I had like mice, rats, but yeah, but never any roaches. But I did see a cockroach come out of a backpack one time. I was standing in line. I was on the subway. I might have been in New York. I was in the States, but I saw a cockroach crawl into somebody's backpack, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" That freaked me out. I know. It was a baby spider genocide. Oh, so sad. That whole family was wiped out. Just trying to put in a quick fancy background. When I think of fancy backgrounds, I think of striped wallpaper. I think I might have been at the Louvre or something. I was somewhere in France, and I just noticed there was like a lot of striped wallpaper. So I was like, okay, this must be like a thing. Oh, I really need to turn this around. Okay. So I'm actually like kind of excited to draw some of the texture on both the shell and the legs of my character. So I'm going to start with the shell because the shell is pretty flat, right? So it's a good way to show cross-hatching texture. So I'm going to use my 0.1 and just go in and make some flat lines. So I'm probably going to go this way. Okay, one direction and then other direction. Another artist that I really like for hatching is Edward Gorey. He's actually he had these very interesting comics. They're also dark and witty, very Tim Burton like, kind of like Edgar Allan Poe style drawings. He was very eccentric, and I loved his illustrations. I mean, I still do. So look him up too if you're interested in doing a style study. Edward Gorey. I believe he was a New Yorker. I'm not sure. I know Tim Burton is more of a California guy. Yeah, lots of New Yorkers who are artists. It's like the good place to be. Good place to be if you want to study roaches too, right? I actually live in the suburbs, so luckily for me there's not that many roaches. Mostly just like tiny mice and stuff. Some snakes. Bunnies, lots of bunnies. So lastly, I'm going to figure out like where I want my areas of contrast to be. So, you know, I might just go like completely dark in some areas, even though I spent all this time hatching it. I realized that I probably want to go much darker to get that contrast. So let me get his name in here. Thank you, Quinn, for the awesome name. And my hand is kind of tired and shaky, so I'm going to use a ruler here. So for our classes, if you didn't know, the way the classes are structured are we do a demo, we talk about different sources of inspiration, and they're very small classes, so you get a lot of hands-on support, which I think is really important. Like, you know, we do our best to make our streams free and accessible for everyone because we think that art is essential for humanity, especially in the digital age, you know? And it's really one of those things that is not just good for your brain and your emotional well-being, but creativity is the best way to fight boredom. I mean, you might argue Netflix or watching movies are, but you know, those are creations that other artists made, right? Like, I hope that you are inspired by Tim Burton and you'll go watch some of his films. Especially Edward Scissorhands. That one is such an iconic film. I also really like Big Fish. Did anybody see Big Fish? That one was also really good. Really good story. He just has so much range. And it really goes to show you that if you're an artist, you can be a filmmaker. You know, you can be a content creator. You can be a multimedia artist. Like, there's no limits. And I actually don't like that about art schools. A lot of art schools, you know, they'll sort of say, okay, well, you can major in animation or illustration, or you can do the entertainment track, or you can do the fine art track. And I find that very limiting, because I had the chance to study with, do a workshop with Milton Glaser, also famous New Yorker. Some people would say he's a graphic designer. Some people would say that he did a little bit of everything. He was kind of like an illustrator, an art director, and the man was very, very, very old. Like, when I did a workshop with him, he might have been like in his 80s. And still sharing his knowledge. And I kind of told him, you know, I am interested in everything. Like, I would totally make a movie if I found the right people. I mean, I never thought I'd be making YouTube videos, but here I am. I never thought I would be streaming or drawing live. So, you know, your creativity can take you in so many interesting directions. And artists are really, really versatile. Like, they're probably the most versatile profession, because once you have trained your eye and just kind of developed your creative sensibilities, there's no limit, right? Like, if you look at Tim Burton, like, he's done everything. He's made films, he's, you know, done, all started from his sketchbook because he loved to draw, right? He's doing installations. And so there's really no limit. And I think art and film is related. And Milton Glaser said to me, I forgot to finish my story. He said to me, he said, Fei, it's all the same. He's like, it's all the same. He's like, what do you mean it's all the same? I have to choose. And he's like, no, it's all the same. Illustration, graphic design, art direction, advertising. He's like, they're all the same. It's like, back in the day. Back in the day, it was all the same. It was just one major. So that kind of put me at a little bit in it with, like, you know, that put me at ease, because when I got out of school, I graduated from illustration, right? I had different books. I had different portfolios. I had a conceptual portfolio, communication design. I loved graphic design. And I had an illustration portfolio. I had a fine art portfolio, like just like traditional classical paintings. And I felt like a misfit. I felt like there was no perfect place or company for me. I felt like I had to specialize. And I felt like if I showed people my insect drawings, then they're going to be like, oh, she's the insect artist. And I won't be able to get any other work outside of what people know me for. So I ended up working in creative advertising because it allowed me to work with all kinds of other creative people, and allowed me to really focus on ideas rather than, you know, something specific like drawing. So I know we're just a little bit over, but I can't believe I finished this. My goodness. Joe, I was just about to apologize and be like, I'm so sorry, but it's gonna take a little bit longer, but I'm almost done. Last thing I'm gonna do is just put a little bit of depth around this frame here. Thank you. So if you guys don't know who Milton Glaser is, he designed the I Heart New York logo. Probably like what he's most famous for, aside from hundreds of album covers and other amazing stuff. Yeah, that was him. I couldn't believe it. Like I got to learn with this legend. He was teaching at the School of Visual Arts in New York, actually. And so my department chair at the time was able to arrange it. So I got very, very lucky. Famous, I know. I think really good artists evolve, you know? Like, I had this conversation. We were talking about this on the Discord, in the members chat. We were kind of having a conversation about AI. Vin, I don't know if you remember this conversation, and I think, was it you who asked me, you know, would I be upset if somebody stole my style or like uploaded my artwork? I would totally upload this and be like, hey, can you show me some other characters? And just for fun and just see what it does. Like, personally, to me, I'm not very, I've learned, I think, over the years to not be so possessive about my artwork. Maybe because I was an art director and I had to throw away so many ideas, right? That I learned early on that if I become attached to my ideas or my style, I would just be upset all the time. I would just, like, you know, cry all the time because my idea didn't make it, or, you know, so I learned not to take things personally. I learned to be very open to critique. And I think one of the most important lessons I learned was to evolve, constantly evolve. If you're constantly evolving, nobody can copy you, right? It's like, oh, you copied me, great, that was me 4 years ago. Good luck with that. I'm doing something else now. And I think that's what, like, I think a lot of illustrators feel like they have to have one style, and like the industry was kind of bad like that. Like, people didn't know what to hire you for if you don't have a distinct style, right? And it's still kind of like that, but I think it's changing. And I think my department chair at the time, her name was Ann Field, and she said, I went into her office one day and I said, I'm really lost. I don't know what I want to do. I don't have one style. You know, what do I do? And she's like, Faye, you're an art director. I was like, what's that? And so I think that's also something a really good mentor can tell you, you know, can answer questions like that when you have those like dilemmas or questions. So if you want to take my class, I teach on Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I also have a figure drawing class, which is completely hybrid. So it's asynchronous, and I offer live critiques. And if you want to chat with me and see the behind the scenes stuff, definitely join the Patreon and join our Discord. So the Discord is free. You get an amazing community, lots of support as well. Critiques on your artwork. That's also something that is so valuable. So yeah, my live critiques are every Friday. I jump on to the Discord and I look at anything that, you know, any requests from our members. So definitely check out our membership perks. You get the best, I think the best part of membership, and let me know, members in the chat, if like what your favorite perk is. Is it the chat? Is it the critique? The recordings? Let us know. The behind the scenes stuff. And again, if you are just joining us for the first time, we love Art Nerds at Wing Canvas. We are an online school of illustration and visual storytelling, and our classes are all focused on art foundations, but we really put the fun and the creativity and the, you know, we try to foster a sense of originality and allow you to explore your own ideas. And so I think that's what that's what really makes Wing Canvas. And I hope you had a fun time. Hey Maya, I had fun drawing too. I had fun drawing with you. If you drew along with me today, I would love to see your artwork. So please share it on social media, tag us at Wing Canvas, or join the Patreon. So for as little as $2 a month, you can get amazing perks. And you get to chat with all the creators and get expert advice on your artwork. And I think the $15 a month tier gives you live critiques. So we try to make learning as affordable as possible, because our mission is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So thanks again, guys, for being here live. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you have a very spooky Halloween. Okay. Bye.